welcome everybody. I hope that you can hear all right and that you can see the screen. Otherwise, please express yourself. Okay. So I am really honored to start this very promising conference to which we are so glad there are so many participants both in the room in Basel and online. And I would like to take this opportunity to reflect a little bit about perceptions on the Papyri. And since last year we have experienced that AI is a bit everywhere in our lives, this is also the time to consider computer vision and what the computer can see as compared to the traditional paleographical eye. I won't have time to go through many. I would like my slide to change. Okay, good. So I won't have time to go through many aspects. I will focus on a few specific points I have been working on these recent years, but I am very happy that several talks will complete this one on Latin paleography this afternoon, and specifically on Friday morning on digital paleography based on Hebrew material, but also 2 talks on more Greek papyrology. So that will be my focus also today, Greek papyrology. To keep it very short and make it simple, let's focus on the aspect that paleography is used to read the text, to date the text, and to identify a common hint. We'll get back to this. And we can put in front of these topics a computational task. So reading the text and recognizing it would belong to writing text recognition, which to my knowledge is not investigated a lot in papyrology. We don't expect the computer to transcribe all by itself the papyri. What is more promising and has been a little bit investigated, but still needs further research, is the text-image alignment. Since 80,000 papyri are published and 60,000 are already in papyri.info, the idea would be to find an efficient way to link this text and this image. But this is also still at a preliminary stage. And on the topic of reading the text, I cannot go without saying that there have been really impressive advances, and that maybe one year we will also have many things to say about computer reading papyri. But this is also still only one word that has been deciphered, but it's quite an achievement since the roll is still rolled and carbonized. So let's keep an eye on what is going on this topic. I just want to clearly, shortly mention that there have been some works recently on dating the text. I want to mention the work by Maria Constantinidou and John Pavlopoulos, who have set a benchmark for dating the literary papyri. I don't have time to go into the details, but please have a look at this publication. And there has been a second one a few months ago on the chronological attribution of Greek papyri images. This is still preliminary results, but it gives also promising hopes that we will be able to improve in the future, and I will get back to how we can improve these first results. What is also interesting is that to date the text, according to paleography, is only in the cases, of course, where we don't have internal dates, but we can also try to date based on the text. So this is not computer vision, this is more on the NLP side, but that's an opportunity for me to say that, of course, if we can combine the efforts, if we can combine the outputs of NLP and of computer vision, that would even be better. And I'm very happy that we will have a talk in this conference by Maria Vieros. So what I will be focusing on is what is called writer recognition, and on a later stage, image similarity to go beyond writers and to find similar styles. I will specifically present you what has been going on the writer identification. So we have one image, and we would like to know among a group of writers to which we are sure of them, which writer this image comes from. This task has been worked intensively, and the most famous data set for this is a modern data set that comes from the 1990s at the beginning, and that was extended since, where you have more than 600 modern writers producing examples of their handwritings. On this kind of data sets, the current methods reach an impressive level of accuracy, which means that for a given text, it will give at 98% the right writer, the correct writer among the possible writers that are in the dataset. Of course, this is modern handwriting, and you can say, okay, but what is going on with historical handwriting? You don't have a nice black writing on a nice white paper. There have been also writer identification experiments on historical documents. And one that was advanced is the Avila Bible from the 12th century, where you have experts have found more than 12 writers. They found the hands, and the current method reached an accuracy of 96% to find which of the samples belong to one of these 12 writers. This is also extremely encouraging. So the next question is, what about the papyri? That's what I wanted to investigate in my previous research project that ended at the end of May. And so I gathered writer datasets. The idea is to have a securely attributed samples of writings and as much as possible. So I picked the largest archive coming from a single village, which is the archive of the Dioscurus of Aphrodito, which has 600 texts over more than a century, a small community, so you have the chance to meet several times the same writers. Specifically, I picked the notaries because notaries write contracts that are usually dated, usually signed, comparable as in terms of content, and yes. So that was why I picked this kind of documents. But you can see that they come from different collections, so they are very different in terms of digitization and, of course, in terms of state of preservation. I also try to gather as many samples as possible per writer, either one big document cut into several pieces or several small documents from several contracts. And we will get back to this because this is an important. By doing so, I was not only working for the computer, but also for a future proper papyrology tasks. And so I also labeled the witnesses and have a traditional approach with efficient visualization tools. So we produced a first data set that is called GR2 papyri that had 50 images of 10 writers. And the idea was to use the approach of medieval manuscripts. And I was very happy to work with Hussein Mohammed from Hamburg, who had developed a tool for this measurement of similarities among different manuscripts. When we gave a first try on the papyri with the same method that worked on the manuscript, it gave an accuracy of 30%. So absolutely not what we were hoping for. But the dataset was released, and a series of experiments had gone through, trying to improve these results. You see here, for instance, the papyrus has been vinerized, turned into a black and white picture, and then cropped into patches that contains roughly 2 words over 2 lines. Okay. Another experiment has cut into patches that are smaller than the letter level, so that we get strokes. Another experiment labeled the papyri at the line level, and another one combined the various approaches of the patches and of the key points. This summer, this work has been extended to another dataset that has 120 images and 23 writers. I will just take the most recent one that has been presented in September, and where you see the approach is not to binarize, it's to keep it as grayscale, so to harmonize the color, and to have patches that contain roughly 4 letters. I have to say that in all these approaches, we reached an average score of 60% for the best. So we are far from this 98% probability. But looking closely at the results, one can see that the writers are not equally recognized. And specifically, we can reach very good results in certain cases. So this is Dios, and you see that it has been extremely well recognized. But why? It happens that Dios is present in our data set with only one very long, well-preserved document, 350 lines, and all kept in the same institution, so digitized the same way. So this is kind of the best conditions. And indeed, in the best conditions, the method works. The second best is Andreas. And Andreas has been pretty well recognized and just confused one with Abraham. And when we look at the data, we see that Andreas is also represented by only one document, small one, not so well preserved, and which has been split into 2 collections. So we have a slightly difference in digitization, but the same document. And the one he has been confused with, and who is kind of the by default result of the algorithm, is Abraham, who is the opposite. He has 17 different documents. So imagine different digitization and different period of the handwriting. So the largest intra-writer variation. So from this, we can say that the method works if you're very lucky and you have writers that are attested in long documents preserved in one collection, or at least homogeneously digitized. But what if not? In most of the cases, we are dealing with small documents, damaged, spread across time and across collections. So in their book, well, in this kind of cases, you have to catch up quantity by quality. And that was my idea. You have seen so far, we just cropped the images, but we didn't see what's in the images. So what about assigning a content and a transcription? I was a bit reluctant into annotating cursive handwritings. Was it really worth it to have hundreds of alpha that would change a lot according to the neighboring letters? So I led an experiment on literary text. So we're on another data set, the Iliad Papyri. We don't have secure date of writer, and we don't have consensus on the typology, but we have clearly written letters on a known text where we know the transcriptions. For this, I have used the research environment for ancient documents with the help of Olga Zabaeva and Stephen White, and we annotated 150 Iliad papyri at the character level manually. This helps to see the different letters conveniently. You see on the glimpse the alphabet, where it is in the image, and also you can assign tags and I decided to assign quality tags. So the BT1 are the best preserved letters, BT2 are damaged, and BT3 are extremely damaged and only recognizable thanks to the transcription. And this was, I think, important methodological point to tag everything, and put everything, and then to be able to sort for the best. We have made available this annotation to anybody on the showcase, where you can see the annotated papyri. You can click and see only some letters, and you can also see in the glimpse the different attestation of each type of letter, which is pretty convenient for further paleographical analysis. This also allows to extract small images called platelets of individual letters. And from 150 papyri, we had tens of thousands of these small images. So we could present this summer a work on stylistic similarity on this Iliad papyri that has been published. And we took a subset of 72 literary texts, so Iliad, and only 3 letters. We picked among the most frequent ones, the 2 that seem the most variable, so the alpha and the epsilon, and the mu, which is less frequent, but that is very characteristic of some paleographical features. And then we use this AI architecture, especially a network that can measure the similarity among 2 images. What does that mean? It means that for each query, so each small image, we can have similarity scores among the other images. And we can sort these images according to their similarity. So to make it simple, among 3,000 alpha, we can find the most similar alpha to a different one. Then we can combine these similarity scores at the level of all the alphas, and then at the level of the text, so combining the scores of alpha, epsilon, and mu. Looking at this more clearly, we could recognize patterns that are that correspond to traditional styles categories or to chronological categories at the early Ptolemaic or the late Alexandrian manuscript. And there will be a talk more focused on the biblical majuscule case, which is a very typical style in literary papyri, that happened to be grouped together also with to some extent. I can leave it for tomorrow for more details on this stuff. What is important is that from this data, we could also hope to go faster on new papyri. And that's why we organized a competition for detection and recognition. And from the output of this competition, we can now hope to encode semi-automatically new papyri. And this is a recent test by Stephen White, where he reaches 80% accuracy in finding the letters and finding what's in the letters. So we can really hope to go faster and to have more data. Because, of course, the similarity measurements only works if you have updated data to look for. So you can also, with this approach, you can also have confidence scores. So if the results are not so confident, not so high, you can dismiss at a certain threshold and keep only the ones that the method gives very short and high rates. So that's the hope in the future, to be able to put all the papyrological evidence for Greek into a coherent panorama, and that's the goal of the new project that has started here in Basel. So not only having some upfront chronological anchor points, but also to combine with social-cultural aspects. So characterize as much as possible the kinds of handwriting. So that for any given unknown, undated text, we could evaluate the similarity and propose a dating and social cultural perspective. So to give some concluding remarks, we have a few elements that are already here, interesting tools, and one of the presentation later in this conference will present the virtual light table, for instance. This read interface with the Palex viewer are also very convenient. So the method works in certain conditions, and this needs to be fine-tuned, but it goes in the good direction, and let's hope for less consuming process in preparing the data. The hopes are that we will find ways to share more efficiently the data. So for instance, the annotation that I have done for the writer identification, let's hope that any project working in this kind of direction with different material put in common these annotations and work from what the others have already done. That would extremely speed up the process. And I think that if we in this field want to take all the opportunities opened by the digital turn, we need to accept this idea that we're not only producing articles, we're not only producing knowledge, but we should also share data. And very practically, what does it mean? It means a CSV with all the corpus that we have used that can be reused for distant viewing on other projects, and maybe a zip file with the images that has used, let alone the right issue that we don't have that time to talk. But for sure, the AI can be improved by making differences between what helps and doesn't help the performance. And as for the wishes, I don't let you hope that we will have this kind of information with the virology, all the most that from a very reliable source, that is the publisher website, we hear that in this book we can see how a single sentence can provide insight into a person's background, psychology, and behavior. I have to say that my hope and my wishes are not so high, but what I can definitely see is that we have the chance to find the needle in the haystack. And that is a very old challenge, but with this computer vision, combining distant and close reading, we can really totally change our way of doing Greek paleography and the virology. And I thank you for your attention.